I've been online for quite some years, and I've noticed that there is a common theme in which a lot of people are not either prepared, or they're not excited, or they're not equipped to be an adult. And I am one who don't really believe in circulating problems. I actually believe in providing solutions, right? And so with that being said, this is a great series for any age group, but this is more, I would say, more of a mature series. And so if you are a young adult, or if you are a teenager, maybe 16, 15, 16, or if you are an older adult, because what we're going to discover today is that being an adult has nothing to do with age. So if you are an older adult, let's say in your 30s or in your 40s, I really think this is a great series for you. I would not only ask that you tune in with us every time we're live during this series, but I would also ask that you share it with your friends and your family who you believe can benefit from just getting some practical advice about what it means to be an adult and how we can effectively win in adulthood, right? There was a meme circulating not too long ago where it says the worst hood in the world is adulthood, is real ghetto, right? And it's a joke, and I laugh at it, but I also know that a lot of people do feel like that. And so instead of continuing rather to promote that type of messaging, I figured it would be awesome and great if we can do a series on adulthood. So rock with Hello, happy Friday, everybody. My name is Pastor Lawrence Souffrant. I will be your host for the day. Listen, if you haven't already, please text LSMin to 24251 so that you can join our text group. Also, if you feel led to donate to the ministry, you can go to www.lawrencesouffrant.com/ministry. You'll be able to donate that way. Or you can go to Cash App at $ LAWSOU. That's $ LAWSOU. You can donate via Cash App. Want to say happy Sabbath to those of you who believe in the Sabbath. Happy Friday to those of you who do not. I am excited for this message today. Yeah, what's going on? Yeah, please catch the replay, man. Listen, this is all good for those of you who can't stay all that long, man. I want y'all to catch the replay. Even some of you, I need to be watching this throughout the week anyway. Even if you're here live, it's a good idea to listen to it during the week to just help give you some strength and some guidance. Today, we are going to talk about legacy. We're going to talk about legacy and lineage, and I don't want to tarry for too long. I do, however, want us to look at this verse that's found in Proverbs 13 chapters. Proverbs 13, verse 22. It says, a good person leaves an inheritance for his grandchildren, and the wealth of the sinner is stored up for righteousness. I just kind of want that to marinate in your mind for a little bit. Ask yourself, what does that mean? A good person leaves an inheritance for his grandchildren, not his children, but his grandchildren. And the wealth of a sinner is stored up for the righteous. I just want you to think about that for a little bit. There's an old saying that says, some people are so poor that all they have is money. I'm going to say that again. There's an old saying that says, some people are so poor that all they have is money. And so when we deal here with legacy and your lineage, I want us to go beyond just the financials. But let me also say this, right? Money is not everything unless it's not present. Oh my God. Somebody needs to catch that. Hold on. Let me clear my throat. Say that one again, because somebody needs to get that. Money is not everything unless it's not present. See, when you're broke, money is your number one problem. When you're broke, money does become everything. When you're broke, it's very difficult to move forward with character, with integrity, or with spirituality. When you're broke, when you're in poverty, it's very difficult to consider the weightier matters. So money is not everything unless it's absent. When money is absent, then money becomes a major focus. And so I do want us to deal with some of the weightier matters, and we will. But I do not for a second want you to think that we won't be talking about money. Because you do have to leave money, not just for your kids, but for your grandkids, right? Because that's what the righteous do. So in a sense, if we're going to talk about righteous prosperity, you may be prosperous from a man's perspective, but you haven't entered into righteous prosperity until you get into the space where there is enough for your grandchildren. I don't want to jump ahead. I don't want to jump ahead because we definitely going to talk about that. But I did want to kind of put that out there in your consciousness. So when we're dealing with lineage and your legacy, I want us to think about the 3 Ds. All right, we're going to deal with 3 Ds today. If we can get through all three today. 3 Ds today: development, descendants, and departure. Development, descendants, and departure. This is something that I want you to repeat after me and say. I want you to say this, repeat after me. My legacy starts with me. Come on, say it out loud. Don't be shy. Don't be ashamed. My legacy starts with me. And this is why I wanted to start with development before I deal with descendants, because for many of us, we have not been taught, or we have not considered that whatever legacy we're building, it first starts with us. I dealt with how important it is to have a good name, how the scripture says a good name should be desired more than wealth, right? Our development determines the destiny of our legacy. And so we have to make a decision to develop ourselves in order to really have a legacy. There can be no expectation for growth if there is no example of development. And so you have to be willing to be that blueprint. You have to be willing to say, hey, I am going to develop myself to the point that I can leave something, not just to my kids, but to my grandkids. And what I find interesting in terms of that is the way you raise your children will determine the development of your grandkids. And so you have to be so intentional in setting an example through your development that your kids have something that they can pass down to their kids. It all starts with you. And the reason why I'm pointing this out is because too many of us use where we came from and how we grew up as an excuse to not become better. There's so many of us who like to say, you know, where I come from, we do this, and where I come from, we do that. There's a point where I want you to start referencing where you come from and start focusing on where you're going. Instead of saying where I come from, we do this, I want you to consider saying where I'm going, we do this. Right? It sets now the bar for you to develop and become better because there is no legacy without you. It is your name. It is your accomplishments. It is what you build up that sets the foundation for legacy. And so if you think that your kids will surpass you just because you are greatly mistaken, and for many of us, the reason why we're not even as advanced as we should be is because our parents did not leave the proper example. There can be no expectation of growth where there is no example of development. And I know for me personally, I had to go through this challenge. My father was not the best example for me. And so I had to really go to God and say, hey, I don't have the proper example of what it means to be a good husband or a good father. And I know the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree, but God, if I'm the apple, I need to roll somewhere else and then establish myself on new ground because what my father gave me would not work in the development of my family. I need y'all to hear me. I could have easily used the excuse of my father not being a good example. I can use that as an excuse to continue to perpetuate the toxicity that my father was providing. But rather, instead of using the bad example as an excuse to remain still in an area that I do not like, I made a decision to develop myself. I made a decision to surround myself with people who could be a better example. I made a decision to start reading on books that would give me the guidance that my father did not give me. I had to make a decision to develop because my legacy starts with me. And I want you to learn and understand, and I want you even to believe that it doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter the conditions in which you came from. When you make a decision to develop, what you're doing now is you are creating a new foundation for your legacy. You're creating a new foundation for your lineage. Some of you have to make the decision to say, look, I know where I came from was toxic, but I will not allow that to continue through me. Some of us have to make the decision to say that the generational curses end with me. And so I may not have all the money, I may not have all the knowledge, but what I will do is continue to develop so that I can give my descendants something better than what I received. I will do the work. And I know it's a weighty task. For some of us, it feels even overwhelming, but you really need to ask yourself, what are the rewards of your regimen? At some point, you have to ask yourself, is it working? What I'm doing, is it working? Whatever it is that you're doing, is it getting you closer to your goals? Whatever it is that you're doing, is it getting you closer to your destination? Is it getting you closer to your destiny? Is it working? And even with that being said, a lot of us, we have to start with a vision for where we want to go and where we want our lineage to go. We need to have a vision for the destiny of our legacy. How do I want to be remembered? What do I want? Okay, almost jumped ahead. Ha ha ha. So, your legacy starts with you. Your development is important towards your legacy. There is no legacy without your development. Now, when it comes to your descendants, right, we're just gonna move right along. When it comes to your descendants, when I use the word descendants, I just don't mean bloodline. I want to be clear. I want to make sure everybody gets what I'm saying. When I use the word descendant, I don't just mean bloodline. Some of us, we have descendants because of our mentoring ability. Some of us, we have descendants because of our influence. There are people who are patterning after us, and those can be considered our descendants. See, be in New York, we used to call those who tried to be like us, we used to call them our sons. And somehow that became offensive now in 2023. I don't know why. But, we used to call them our little bros, or we used to call them our sons, because we was paving the way for them. And there was an expectation that they would do what we do, but then take what we do to that next level. And so when it comes to your descendants, these are two things I want you to think about. I want you to think first about your family culture. Now, I'm going to do a series about family, specifically just about family. So I won't go too deep into this tonight. But I do want you to consider the culture of your family. So when I use the word culture, I am talking about the atmosphere of your family, the structure, if you will, of your family. I'm talking about family traditions. I mean, are you creating a space where it's okay to be imperfect while it's also encouraged to be better? Are you creating a space where transparency will not lead to trauma? Are you creating a space where vulnerability will not lead to violence, right? The culture of your family. And when we're dealing with legacy, this is something that you have to do intentionally. You cannot allow your family culture to develop without your intention, because you might find yourself falling back into old habits that don't really work. And so you want to be very intentional about the culture that you are developing for your family. So if you don't have any kids, this might be something that you reserve until you start having kids, whether they're birthed, whether they're adopted, or whether it's mentees. You want to create a culture that encourages growth. You want to create a culture that says it's okay to be imperfect, but we encourage you to be better, right? You want to create a culture that says your vulnerability won't lead to violence. We're not going to use it against you. We're not going to hurt you with the things that hurt you, right? We want you to feel safe, because you can only thrive in safety. You can only advance in safety. And so for many of us, our family culture was not safe. Many of us, we grew up holding things back from our families, from our parents, from our loved ones, because we wanted to avoid the guilt and the shame that came with some of the decisions that we made, some of the mistakes that we made. And so we withhold information, or we withhold how we truly feel. We withhold what we really experienced, because we knew that our vulnerability would lead to violence. We knew that we would get beat or we would get punished. And because we withheld that information, we're not even quite sure if our family had the tools to help us in those situations, because we never felt safe enough to put it to the test. Oh, come on, I need y'all to be honest with me. I know I'm not the only one who felt like I had to hide my gangbanging. I had to hide my fornication. I had to hide the fact that I was smoking and drinking, because I did not want to get in trouble by my parental. I don't want to be the only one who felt like I had to do a double life, be one person in the streets and another person in church, because I wanted to avoid the violence that might come with my vulnerability. And let me be clear, my mom did not create a culture that says I could not be vulnerable, but because of what I've already experienced, I felt like I could not be. And so what I'm saying is, you want to be intentional. You want to be intentional in creating a family culture that says it is okay for you to be imperfect. In fact, I would encourage you, when your child gets of age, amen. Oh man, this family series is going to be really good. I don't want to stay here too long. I would encourage you to let your kids know that you weren't perfect, but also give them the tools that you did not get when you was in their stage. All right, I'm a hold back on that. I will dive deeper in that during our families series. We'll dive deeper in that. All right. So you have your development, your legacy starts with you. Then you have your descendants. How you develop is passed down directly to your children, and how you are developed influences how you develop them, and how they are developed will influence how the next generation is developed, and the cycle continues and continues and continues. So you want to have family culture, you also want to have family roles. This is extremely important because in order to truly have community, we need to know where we fit in the community. Now I know this might sound really old school. We live in a generation now where anyone can be whatever they want to be, and look, I support that up to a degree. I'll be honest with you. When you're not defined, when there's no definition as to who you are in the community, there is a sense of lostness that you experience. There's even a sense of being irrelevant that you experience. There's something that says, I'm not important because I don't know what my role is. No one ever defined this is who I am to the family. And so whatever structure you are creating for yourself, you want to be intentional in letting your family know this is the role that we play. We need you to be, when mommy and daddy's gone, you're the one that's in charge, or you're more responsible with the money. So we need you to finance whatever. However you're going to structure your family, you want to be intentional in letting them know their role. But a role without relationship is abuse, right? So you want to establish love first. Before you can let them know their place, they have to know that they have a place in your heart. And so letting your family know, letting your descendants know that they are loved by you before they do anything, whether they fail or succeed, before they receive a grade or a report card, before they start going out into the world, they need to know no matter what happens, love is here. And so now with the love, roles without relationship is abuse. So when you lead with love, then you can follow with placement. This is how you fit in our family structure. I see this in you. And in order to really do this, you have to be present. You have to know your children. Oh man, you have to know how they move. You have to know their tendencies. You have to know, I know how my son moves. I know how my daughters move. I can see their personality. I can see where they lack, where they need to develop better. But I can also see the greatness in them, the things that they do amazing and awesome. And we have to be intentional in letting them know you are amazing here. And this here can benefit the family as a community. We're no longer going to create toxic environments. We want our children to feel safe within the family, because too many of us are looking outside of the family for acceptance because our family was not intentional in making us feel accepted. And it's okay if you have to look outside the family. It's okay if you have to start brand new. I don't want you to feel shame. I don't want you to feel, any type of negative emotion because you have to start over. As a matter of fact, it's an honor for you to now become the foundation of your family. Because after every generation, there becomes a new foundation. Somebody has to now lay the foundation for what's coming next. And if God has chosen you to be that for your family, then to God be the glory, great things he has done. You are well equipped to be that. You are well equipped to do that. All right, so the last thing is departure. Development, descendants, and now departure. Departure is so important because it's one thing that I can say as Black people. If you ain't Black, you might not understand. But Black people are really scared to talk about death. Black people have this superstition that says, if I speak on death, it's somehow going to come quicker. Well, let me let my people know. Our days are numbered, okay? Death is coming unless Jesus comes first. So whether we talk about it or don't talk about it, it's a guarantee. It's one of the few guarantees that we have in this human experience. Death is here. Death is coming. And so our issue is we don't prepare our descendants for our departure. Oh man, I remember when I was watching Black Panther and the King. You know, he died, and when T'Challa had went to the astral plane, he asked, "Did I not prepare you? Did I fail you as a father by not preparing you?" And the truth of the matter is, many of us, we think we have more time, or we think we're extending our time by avoiding those hard conversations about death. But we need to prepare our children for our departure. First order of preparation is, can they survive without you? You have to be intentional in developing your descent. Now, this is adult stuff. This is adult stuff. I don't expect children to develop children. There's an expectation that adults will develop children. Remember, your legacy starts with you. So as you are developed, you will be developing your descendants, your mentees, your children, whomever, so that they can survive in your absence. In other words, you are raising them to become self-sufficient. Now, the truth of the matter is, you don't know when your day will come. And some parents want to keep their kids as long as possible. And I understand the emotional connection to that. But the reality is, if you don't do your job in developing them to survive without you, your departure will have so much trauma connected that you may ruin your legacy because of your lack of development in them. Oh, I need you to get this. If you don't put the tools in them so they feel confident enough to survive in your absence, you may put a stunt in your legacy. Because when you leave, there'll be more trauma than triumph. They won't feel prepared. They'll start to feel lost. And it doesn't matter how old they are. It doesn't matter how old you are when you transition, when you die, when you depart. None of that matters. All that matters is what you placed in them. And so if we have the grace to know when our time is coming, where we can be a little more advanced and share with them certain tools, that's praise be to God. But if our death is sudden, will our children know how to cook for themselves, how to clean for themselves, how to study and grow in knowledge? Will they know how to manage their emotions? Will they know how to effectively choose healthy relationships? What are you passing down to your children that they may survive without you? This is not to say that they won't miss you. Of course, they're going to miss you because they love you. But are you preparing them to survive without you? And I want to be sensitive because I know some of us, we're mourning the loss of parents right now. And many of us, we're thinking about that. Even as I'm speaking, there's emotions coming up because you're not sure if your parents prepared you. There's other of us, as I'm speaking, you're thinking, yeah, my parents did a good job. And I wish they could see me thrive. But I'm so glad that they placed these things in me so that I could survive in their absence. So you have to be intentional. This is deep stuff. I'm sorry, I know y'all ain't gonna shout tonight. This is some deep stuff. But it's important that when we are interacting with our children, we are giving them things so that they could survive in our departure. And when we're dealing with family roles, that's important as well. If you have multiple kids, the oldest needs to know their role in case you depart. Now that sound, once again, Black people, they're real scared of death. And they want to keep their kids as long as possible. But for the sake of your legacy, you want to have a structure that says, listen, if I go, I need you to do X, Y, Z. You're the one to handle that. If something was to happen to me and mom, I need you to do that, whatever it is. By God's grace, it won't happen. By God's grace, you'll never have to be that. But in the case that death decides to come, I need you to know that you are that in the family. It has to be defined. They need to know they can survive without you. All right. The next thing is they need to know how you ought to be honored. So this is really where legacy comes into play. What should they do to honor you? Now, when King David was dying on his deathbed, he called Solomon into the room. And he made sure he told Solomon, listen, there's some unfinished business that I need you to handle when I depart. There's certain people, that I need you to take care of when I'm gone. Because I don't have the strength now to finish this. But you, as the heir of my throne, I need you to make sure that this is handled. He was telling Solomon how to honor him in his departure. And that's a real conversation you need to have for legacy. How do you want your descendants to honor you in your departure? Should they build rec centers in your name? Should they continue whatever movement that you have? And because we live in a generation where we don't want to put pressure on our kids, we want them to be able to choose freely. I understand that. But if we're talking about legacy, we're also talking about being intentional. And I can tell you, there are children, Malcolm X's children made sure that his legacy continued in his departure, right? You want to make sure that they know what to do. And in order for them to know what to do, you have to give them instruction. So I want you, for all of you who are listening, as adults, when you're considering your legacy, let me put the verse up again, because I think it is so important. A good man does what? He leaves an inheritance for his grandchildren, and the wealth of a sinner is stored up for the righteous. Now, this is good news. I don't have time to deal with that second half right now, but I'll just say this because it's in the text. Some of us, our abundance is being stored in the bank accounts of the wicked, and when the wicked departure, it will not go to their descendants. Rather, it will be distributed amongst the righteous. So there is, in fact, an inheritance for righteous people when the wicked departs. But that's a whole other conversation. As far as legacy is concerned, I want you to be intentional about your development. I want you to be intentional about your descendants. And I want you to be intentional about your departure so that your legacy can be strong, so that your name can remain in history with your family. That when your family speaks of you, they speak well of you. That someone names their children after you and let them know, yes, I named you after granddad so-and-so because he was a good man. I named you after grandma so-and-so because she was a good woman. She left us things. And let me also say this last part for practicality because I forgot. Life insurance. Get life insurance. Now, I don't sell life insurance. This is not an ad. I don't have anybody to recommend to you. But if you don't have life insurance, get life insurance. Life insurance is one of the easiest ways to ensure that at least your children have something when you depart. Some of us, we're never going to get the millions. We're not going to get the billions. But if we have life insurance, we can leave them with something. But leaving them with money is not enough. You have to also leave them with knowledge on how to handle that money. That's part of the departure conversation. That's part of the how you honor me conversation. You're going to get X amount of dollars. When I'm gone, I have an insurance policy where you get X amount of dollars. This is how you handle that money. That's part of your legacy, brothers and sisters. That's part of your legacy, ladies and gentlemen. You want to be intentional in saying, look, you get $1 million, 30% goes here, 10% goes there, 40% goes there, whatever. However it's supposed to be divided. You plan that. You make that clear for the sake of your legacy. Because that's our job. So let me pray. I'm done. That's all I want to say about legacy. And I hope it was clear. If it wasn't, just hit me up. We can have a conversation. But I hope you'll be intentional. I hope you understand the importance of your legacy, your name continuing for generations to generations. And I hope that you will, in fact, be intentional with your own development, with your descendants, and with your departure. All right, let's pray. Father in heaven, I'm so glad that our name can continue if we would just be intentional. That just like we talk about David and Solomon and Queen Sheba and Ruth, that we may also develop ourselves to such a degree that we are significant to our family. And that when they speak of our family history, our name will be mentioned for generations after generations. Lord, help us to be intentional in our legacy. Let us know that you have equipped us with everything to be successful, so that you may get all the honor and glory, but that our family may benefit by our work and our character. This we ask in Jesus' name. Amen. Once again, if you have not already, you are free to donate. If you feel led to donate to the ministry, you can go to www.launchthefront.com/ministry. Donate there. You can go to Cash App, $LAWSOU. You can give there. If you have not signed up for our text group, go to text LSMin, that's LSMIN, to 24251, 24251, so that you can join our text group. But other than that, you are dismissed. Peace.